Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Chris Collier from Conquer with Chris, the podcast you don't want to miss. Today, I have a great guest, Kesha Chanel. Kesha, welcome to the show.
Hi,
Kesha, tell the people a little bit about yourself, where you're from, and what you do.
I am Kesha Chanel. I am a certified abundant life coach, author, speaker, and healer, and I help women rebuild confidence and overcome what took it.
Wow, that's amazing. So, tell the people a little bit about your story and how you got to the place where you started help people healing themselves from the inner turmoil and conflict they go through.
So my story pretty much started at the tender age of 45. When I was 45, I had been through so many different things, divorce and infidelity, bullying, molestation, and so many different things over the course of my life, and therapy for 25 years and all these different things. And I realized after I had been through therapy many, many years for the molestation, but I didn't realize that the molestation still had a hold on me and it caused me to look at myself very poorly, had my self-esteem very low, and had my perception of myself very low. And that carried how I reacted all of my life to every aspect of my life. And when I realized that, I went through a process of what I write in my new book, I Feel Better Already. I call it the Feel Better Formula.
Kesha, you've been through some things, and how did you get to the place where you help people heal themselves?
So when I got to the age of 45, I recognized that my molestation is what was the root of all my problems. It was the root of the way that I saw myself, and how I saw myself impacted how I interacted with the world. And I realized that so many people probably have the same kind of perception. Anytime you've been through any kind of trauma, you look through life through a lens of pain. People that have been through less, they look through life with the rose-colored glasses. They look at life with optimism and hope and joy most of the time. If not all of the time, they'll at least look through those lenses through a happier perspective than somebody has had any kind of trauma. When you've had kind of all kinds of trauma, you feel lower about yourself instinctively. Nobody has to say anything bad to you. Like we're having a conversation right now. You don't have to be saying you're a piece of shit in order for me to think that. I have this thing that tells me in the back of my mind, I'm not enough. I'm not a winner. All these different things because of the way people have treated you over the course of the years. And so my whole hope and help when I come in is to help people recognize that their past has an impact on their present and their future because of what they tell themselves, because of what happened in the past. And when I recognize that for myself, it has been my mission so that I can help other people see that using positive words and treating themselves better and seeing life differently can help them impact all of their life through a whole different perspective.
I think that's critical because one of the things that I learned early on, people know that I'm also a pastor outside of doing podcasts and entrepreneur stuff, that if you don't deal with the root, you'll never change the fruit, right?
Mm.
Sometimes we try to deal with the fruit, right? I have a bad relationship, or I have bad money problems, I have this, that, or the other. But really, it's not. That's just the evidence of what really is at the bottom, at the heart of the matter. So one of the things I've also learned in business is competence creates confidence. And when you don't feel confident about yourself, you'll never feel confident about yourself. So share with the people how you get them to feel confident and whole through inner healing and self-discovery.
Well, I help people with their inner healing and self-discovery with my 5-step process called the Feel Better Formula. And in order to heal from anything, anything that you've had to face in your life, whether it was a job loss, parent loss, kid loss, anything, or breakup, anything that has hurt you, somebody stumping on your toe, anything that has caused you kind of pain or made you feel some type of way. It's called the Feel Better Formula. And the very first things you have to do is accept that that thing happened. And it's easier said than done. Acceptance is the first step. And if you don't recognize something in the reality of what it is, you can't accept it. And if you can't accept it, you can't move on from it. But a lot of times we are in denial. Oh, it's not so bad. Oh, I can live with it. And you sit there and you suffer. But when you accept it, you're able to deal with it. And so that's the first step that you have to
Before
accept
you go to
where
the
you
second
are.
step, before you go to the second step, I think that's really key because
Sure, sure.
there's a commercial out now, and we might be dating ourselves by sharing the commercial, but there's a lady with a beehive on her head, and she's going, "It's not so bad," and it's ludicrous, right? The commercial is ludicrous. She has a bee. I've had worse things happen. Yeah, you probably have in life, right? But
Uh-huh.
if you don't deal with it, but that's how people work, right? That's how we work. Like something bad happens, we just keep on moving, and we kind of gloss over. Oh yeah, my partner did this, or my family member passed away, or this, that, or the other. We gloss over it because we just have to keep going to work. We still have to make money to support our family. We still have to take care of the kids, whatever the case may be. But so accepting that that thing happened and it was bad to you as whatever it was. Like if you get a hangnail and I get a hangnail, our response might be totally different. Is how someone else processes it and how we process it, and how we process something is how someone else processes it.
Exactly, exactly. And that's part of like our trauma experiences. If you have had a different experience from me, whether it's race, class, how even our age, and like you were talking about the commercial, different things that we have experienced in our life, we will have different reactions to different things go on. So everybody is going to experience things differently. The more trauma that you've had, the more experience, the more painful experiences you've had, you will react to life in a different way, in a little bit more painful way. You'll be more expectant of fear. You'll be more expectant of bad things to happen versus if you had a little bit easier life, you'll be expecting things will be a lot greater. It'll be easy. It'll just be your perspective will be completely different.
Wow, that's great. So, if you care to share, what's the second step?
And we're also realizing that to not make a decision is also a decision. So you can have, like we were talking about the hangnail, and yeah, we can just talk about the hangnail. I think it'll be so you can make a decision like, you've got this hangnail and you just don't feel like dealing with it today, and you can let it sit there, and before you know it, that hangnail will be infected. Now you've already made that decision that you just didn't want to be bothered, and you're going to let it sit there. That's the decision that you made, and that's the consequence that you had to deal with, and that's okay. The biggest thing about the decision making the decision process is knowing that it's okay whatever decision that you make, because one thing about dealing with trauma, a lot of times just to get to that point that you accept is hard. Just coming to that reality, there's a lot of emotion behind it. When you decide to make a decision, there's a lot of emotion behind that too. So to make the decision like, okay, I'm going to let this be what it's going to be, and I'm not going to worry about it. Or you can make the decision, hey, I'm tired of this kind of treatment. I'm tired of this hangnail hurting. I'm tired of this abuse at work, or I'm tired of not making this kind of money that I want to make, or I'm tired of living in fear, whatever it is that you're deciding. The decision is final and you go forward, recognizing that whatever things come up, whether it's fear, whether it's you needing support, you needing money, whatever it is, you face that thing as it comes. But you've made a decision to go forward and you continue to go forward. And that is the decision making process.
That's great. So they have to accept, and then they have to digest that, the emotion that goes with that. And then, and sometimes I would say it probably is like more like we think of a decision kind of like a right or a left, correct?
Yes,
Versus
exactly. Yes.
sometimes it's emerging, right? It's like like we getting on the expressway here in Atlanta, 85 getting to 285. It's not as easy as just the decision. I remember this a long time ago when I got involved in business. They said make a decision and make it right, and that is so.
Mm,
Like sometimes you might not make the right decision, but making it right means that if you even if you made the wrong decision, now making a new decision to make it right makes the decision. Because listen, we always talk about we need God's help. Well, God doesn't drive the car a parked car. You have to be driving
mhm,
somewhere. Like intention doesn't drive to park life, right? You have to have some kind of movement to be guided, right? So walk the people
mhm.
through in the next step or two of how they get to feeling good already.
Because the biggest thing about that is to recognize that you are the only one who can determine if it's a right decision. Because it takes a lot of emotion and it takes a lot of determination, because it's like, because especially if you have suffered trauma, just to make a decision, it just takes a lot of commitment and it takes a lot of effort. And you are the only one that has to live with that decision, because you as a pastor and I as a child of God can encourage you and tell you this one thing, but you are the one that has to walk that out. And one of the biggest things that I try to stress in my book and my program is that, whatever decision that you make, you are okay. And God loves you either way, but you will have to live with the consequences of that thing. But you are okay either way. So I really want, when you say right decision, it's just like, and it's like, because it can cause so much shame, it can cause so much guilt. I didn't do right, and it's just like, God loves you. Wherever you are, where you are is where you're supposed to be. And it's a journey, it's a marathon. It's not like something that's going to be fixed instantly. So I just wanted to stress that and
Well,
just kind of set
that's
somebody free because,
no, that's great. That's great. Because like
okay,
too
good.
often we as adults, right? We see someone get up and try something and they fail, and we go like, oh, they shouldn't have done that. But
Mm-hmm.
see a baby trying to learn to walk, or a kid trying to ride a bike, or someone trying to swim, they make a misstep, or they fall in the pool and they need help out. Guess what? No one judges them. No one goes, oh, you shouldn't have done that. But as adults, we want to reprimand someone for trying and failing. It doesn't make any sense, because we've
Yes,
gotten so secure in our
yes.
jobs, so secure in our lives. We're
Mm-hmm.
afraid to take steps.
Yes,
I'd rather have someone take a step personally. I'd rather have someone take a step and fail, because they're really not failing. They're just finding out this doesn't work for them at this moment. So
exactly.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean, but you hit that point so beautifully. I want to agree with you. So go ahead and
No, that was the dialogue. It's so helpful.
so what's the next phase that people need to look at?
So after you've made that decision and you've gone, with the commitment to do it, the third step is that you have to release all blame, pain, guilt, shame, resentment, fear, all the emotions that come up with that. And inevitably there will be emotions, particularly, and the thing is, I write this book from a perspective, or from a perspective of a trauma survivor, because again, people that have had a lot less trauma to deal with, when you see, countless books have been written for them, because it's like, you know, it's a great day to have a great day. You can see these great things and they'll be absorbed into your brain quicker. But if you are a trauma survivor, you have a lot of shame built up. You have a lot of resentment for other people. You have a lot of blame for whatever it is that has happened to you. You have all this underlying foundation of hurt that is just sitting there, and that has to be released. And when you accept it, that stuff's going to come up. It's going to come up and you'll be like, oh, it can be overwhelming. So you have to release all of that stuff, let all that stuff go, forgive the person, forgive yourself, go through, all that emotion that comes up and release it. And then you can start to move on again. But you have to release that thing. And the thing about the releasing is, it's not just a one time. It's not just a one and done. The same way we go to church on Sunday and Bible study on Wednesday, it's an ongoing process. It's not something like, I released it already. Yeah, you released it already, but then there's levels to it. You release this, and then you got to release something else that comes after that. And you got to release something else that comes after that. Or if something will happen to make you remember, and you got to release it again. There's knowing that it's an ongoing process. And like I said earlier, it's okay and you're okay. And it's just a embracing yourself and forgiving yourself consistently and completely.
Yeah, I agree with that, because I found like in anything, there's life is like onions. There's different layers to it, and you're not going to get to the core right away. As a matter of fact, by the time you get to the core, that just disappears at some point, right? I mean, you're going through all these layers, and all of a sudden you're just like, it's just not there anymore, and it
Yeah.
doesn't have a hold on me anymore. So I want to encourage the people. Listen, you might have forgiven someone, but then the biggest thing I think is the key, where you blame yourself for something, right? Because of course, you're gonna blame someone else for something that happens in your life. That's natural, especially when they did something you didn't do anything wrong. Uh,
Hmm.
you're just an innocent bystander that got hurt. The thing is that when that happens, is you're gonna blame yourself more than you're gonna blame anyone else, or you're gonna blame a parent, a teacher who should have had your back, a family member. But at that point, you're also going to blame yourself because you didn't know what happened. You weren't really. So I want to encourage the people: forgive yourself first. Forgive
Hmm.
yourself first. That, you know, there's a saying in the Bible: love your neighbor as yourself. Well, if you don't love yourself, you can't love your neighbor. If you don't forgive yourself, you can't forgive the person who did that to you. And so, at the end of the day, is we've got to let ourselves free of whatever it is that's ailing us, whatever we're holding, and whatever. We stop playing the blame game, as you said. So you continue to release it, but while you're releasing it, is there something else that people can do to get free and become the whole version of themselves
Well, are you saying after or while?
after or
Like,
during? Yeah, during that
well,
process,
during
because
it's
that's
just
key.
different kinds of things that you can do to release. One my favorite is prayer. Prayer really helps me release. Crying really helps me release. Meditation, support groups, just talking it out to a friend, sharing, your experience using your voice. There's a lot of different things that I do and help people with for releasing.
Gotcha. And so you get past that stage where you're forgiving yourself, releasing yourself, releasing other people. And well, so what's the next step or next phase in this process?
So the next phase is to build up your confidence. And after you've released all that, because a lot of times, you'll see a lot of different things about affirmations and positive thinking. If you haven't released all that stuff, you'll have a combination of the positive thinking and the negative thinking. With the negative thinking, like, yeah, right, just kind of second guessing everything you're building up the confidence for. So that's the main purpose of, releasing all that stuff. But once it's released and you build up the confidence, lots of positive thinking, the Bible, or different kind of spiritual books or self-help books, just different kind of affirmations, as long as you're telling yourself a better story, telling yourself that you matter, telling yourself that you're worth it, just telling yourself all those positive things that you want to hear from another person. It's imperative that you give that to yourself. I'm working on this thing right now about closure and about how my book helps people with closure, because so many different people, when you're in a relationship and you go through a bad breakup, you just want closure. It's like, oh, I want closure. I don't understand what happened. And I know people that have gone through their whole life just sitting and waiting for closure from this person, just waiting for these magic words from this other person that never happened. Either it's an ex, or if it's a parent that, they didn't think they got the best treatment from, or a teacher that said something crazy. But so many people look for closure and look for somebody to right their wrong and just to make them feel better about something, when they can tell themselves that better story. And so, building up confidence is that next step. It's that imperative piece that, okay, all this other stuff is true, but this is what I say about me right now. This is what's true about me today. I am amazing. I am breathtaking. I am the light of God. I am effervescent. I am joyful. All that stuff, to feel it and believe it and walk in it. That's the next step.
That's amazing. What I found personally in my life is to write it is the best way because you're saying it in here, you're writing it out, but then while you're writing it, you're also reading it, so you're hearing it a second time. So it's three times you're hearing it versus one. So for those of you who are listening to this show or going through this process and you hear this video, write it down. It'll stick with you longer. And then I would suggest write it a couple times a day because it's going to really impact you in a whole nother way. So you get that, you build up your self-confidence, and then what's next?
You fight to keep it, because a lot of time people don't necessarily talk about that piece, because it's like, oh, get confident, and they don't talk about the days that they don't feel as confident. They don't talk about the days that, because right now I'm got my makeup on and looking all glamorous. They don't talk about the days that their hair looks crazy, or they feel fat, or their period's on, or they stomp their toe. There's something, or life gets to life, and there's something that's going to happen in your life, and it's like, oh, really? Your confidence just wavers a little bit. And so the fifth step is to fight to keep that confidence. Everybody's confidence wavers at some point, and you're no different. And so it's okay, and you're okay. But that fifth step of fight to keep it, you fight to build, keep up every little bit of that confidence that you've worked so hard to build up.
That Keisha, that's so great. Listen, I'll tell you what I think about that is a lot of times we listen to these motivational quotes and they're great and they're awesome. They might get you jazzed up for a minute. You might get
A
feel
minute.
empowered. I'm going to take on the world. But the difference between motivation and mindset is two different worlds, right? Because mindset is the ability to keep the motivation when there's no quotes, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's what you're talking about. You're talking about a mindset like, hey, look, I don't care what happens. I don't care if I'm dressed up in this nice attire or I'm in shorts and a t-shirt. I'm gonna be who I'm gonna be. I'm gonna be that person that runs this podcast, or in your case, you wrote that book and you have that inner healing thing happening for you, the coaching.
Yeah,
Listen, no matter what happens, that's who we are, right? I'm
exactly.
not just a podcaster. I'm a grandfather, a husband, a pastor, a teacher, and you're all the things you are. You're an inner healer. You're help people get self discovery, help them with their self confidence. You wrote a book. You're an author. All those
Mm-hmm.
things. No matter what, they can't take that away from us because we
Ever.
learned to have the mindset of that person, right? So one of the things I encourage people, and I'm glad that you're on today because what I do is that you got to become that person that you see in the future. You were talking about telling yourself a story. And I heard a guy say this, and it was I don't know if it was a guy or a gal, but I heard someone say this. And they said this. They said, Chris, you're always telling yourself a story, whether it be a good story or a bad story, which you might as well tell yourself a good story versus the bad story. So tell yourself a story. You're going to be wealthy. You're going to be prosperous. You're going to be healthy. You're going to be in your right mind. You're not going to be crazy. You're not going to be defeated or depressed. I was like, you know what? That's true because you look at someone who that you knew that wasn't famous and became famous or wasn't doing well and started doing well. They lied to themselves. I'm gonna be prosperous, man. Oh yeah, things are going well, and they bought into it, hook, line, and
Mm-hmm.
sinker, and they didn't really lie to themselves. It just looked like it because they just had faith they were going to become that person in the future, and they just brought that reality back to the present.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So
And that's so key, because but it's important, and that's why, it's important that we get that thing in our spirit. And that's why the key about releasing is so important because that inner voice, and like, the Bible says about that double mind is a beast because, when I was molested, I was 5. So I started getting messages from the age of 5 years old. So for 45 years, I've had this story that I'm not enough and my voice doesn't matter. So it's why it's so important that you get that thing solidified and you fight to keep it because it's like you said about the memes that we see and all the stuff that we see on Instagram and quick, and on YouTube. You'll see it, but is it going to stay? And a lot of times, especially with our attention spans being so short these days, because everything is so quick, you need to have a good constant thing. So like you said about writing it down, whatever it is, how you learn, that's better. It's got to be solidified inside you. That's what the fight to keep it part is so important because yeah, you worked hard and I'm so happy for you. Congratulations that you feel better. Now what are you gonna do? When you don't feel so good the next day. So yeah, that's so key. It's so key.
that is so good. Wow. What a great time. Listen, Keisha, where can people find you?
Most of the places that I am on. I am Kesha Chanel on Instagram, Kesha Chanel Palmer on Facebook, LinkedIn. I think it's Kesha Chanel, and on TikTok is I am Kesha Chanel. So I'm all over.
Everywhere. Uh,
Yes.
so and what do you have what's your favorite quote that you'd like to share with us today?
My favorite quote I'm going to read from, and it is one of the quotes that I use in my book. My book is full of quotes, prayers, scriptures, tips on how to incorporate it all into your life, prayers, and a section called Walk It Like I Talk It, where I live each day. It's a 30-day process, 5-week process, but I live each day and I write that, write it in each day, a section called Walk It Like I Talk It. So the quote that I want to read is from Alan Cohen. Wouldn't it be powerful if you fell in love with yourself so deeply that you would do just about anything if you knew it would make you happy? This is precisely how much life loves you and wants you to nurture yourself. The deeper you love yourself, the more the universe will affirm your worth. Then you can enjoy a lifelong love affair that brings you the richest fulfillment from the inside out. I
Wow,
love
that's deep.
I love that.
I love it because people get on this entrepreneur journey,
Mhm.
this thought leader journey, this influencer journey, and it's all about the money or all about the influence. But at the end of the day, when if you're not satisfied on the inside, you're not going to have any impact or influence because people can see that. It's just funny, like you can't see it yourself, but other people outside you can see that. And if you're not doing something that gives you joy and it brings life, then people see that. So what is actually saying in summation is if you do things that make you happy, then everyone's going to see that, and it's going to naturally, you're naturally going to rise. The cream's naturally going to rise to the top. You can't help it.
Yeah,
As
yeah.
one of my bishop friends says, he goes, "I got the I can't help it."
I love it. And it just feels good because a lot of it, was also talking about loving yourself too. And it's just like because so often we want somebody to love us. All we ever want as human beings is to feel seen, heard, felt, and valued. And we don't recognize that we can give ourselves that very same thing, this thing that we are craving from somebody else and begging from somebody else to give us we can give ourselves. And so that's why, I love that quote because it talks about how you love yourself. And if you just get to that point that you love yourself the way that you are thirsting after another person, your life would be so much better.
And is there anything you want to share with the people that they could maybe get in contact with you, or maybe you have an offer for the people that a way you could help them overcome their past pains or anything they've been through?
Well, I think the best thing that I could offer is my book. My book, I Feel Better Already, and I've already detailed all the wonderful explanations of the Feel Better formula that the book walks out. But my book is going to be out on March the 3rd, 2023, and that's 3323. I love to say that. It just comes off my tongue. I love to say that. And it's coming out then, and it'll be on Amazon, and it'll also be an ebook, but it'll also be a book that you can write because it has lots of questions for you to see how you can apply it to your life. But there's also going to be a digital course that goes with it. Some people are visual learners, and some people are auditory learners. If you're one of those people, you definitely want to get the digital course. But some people need to go a little step further and ask questions. I'm one of those kind of people that was just like, but hey, this is what's going on in my life right now. What can you do something to help me? I've got an actual course that coincides with the book where I walk with you directly with it every week. We're on a group Zoom and we're talking about life and we're talking about all these steps that are in the book, all these quotes at least, these scriptures, all these prayers, and we work through that thing every week for 5 weeks. And so it's a program. It's called the Rebuild Program, and we walk through the whole book. And you will also get that community of support and to recognize that you are not by yourself and you are heard, you are seen, you are felt, and you are valued and you are loved. So yeah, that's what I have to offer. And then so you can just send me a message to let me know that you're interested and get on the wait list so that you can get your healing started so you can get the feeling better already.
I love it. My guest has been Kesha Chanel today. Kesha, thanks for being on the show.
Thank you, Chris.
Remember, Conquer with Chris, the podcast you don't miss. Please like, share, subscribe on depending on what platform you're on. Thank you so much, and you guys have a great day.
Bye.